speak to your heart? Word of God, speak to our hearts today. And not just today, but every day. Let us hear your voice. Thank you, Jesus. Amen. You know what a hoax is? Those things that people send you an email? Yes, very similar. You know what a hoax is? Something that appears to be true, but isn't so much. During college, I took a school year out and worked at a boarding high school up in Washington State, near Spokane. While I was there, one of my responsibilities was to direct the drama group, and we pulled off one of the greatest hoaxes in the history of Spokane, as far as I'm concerned. The history teacher came to us, and he had an old World War II trench coat, officer's trench coat. And he had a whole collection of World War II stuff. And he outfitted himself as a colonel in an air force of a small, little-known European country who was coming to visit Spokane to see his daughter who was going to the university there. And so we set this whole thing up. I was dressed up in a suit. I was the attaché, the liaison between the American government and this guy. We went to the mall, we took him on a tour, had a bunch of her friends were there. He spoke broken English, had his bodyguard, which was my friend. At that time it was kind of the style where the guys would kind of shave their hair real close along the side. So he took all his hair, put it up, and put a hat on, and looked very imposing. He was wearing black, and my friend Armand has the ability to stare at you and completely intimidate. If you're wondering how to be the most intimidating and scary, it's not by looking mean. It's by taking your face and getting rid of all expression completely. That is the most intimidating thing you can do, and he did. In fact, it scared me to death because we had a reporter show up at the mall to interview him. A reporter, she was the English teacher, and he grabbed her tape recorder and ripped the tape out, checking for a bomb. It was fantastic. We went through, we got kicked out of the mall. I didn't get kicked out of the mall, but they got angry because we started taking pictures for publicity purposes. We carried this thing through. We ended up going to Olive Garden, and the bodyguard couldn't speak English, so we had to interpret the menu for him to be able to order, and it was great. But really the restaurant was the funnest place because all the wait staff kept trying to look and see, okay, is this real, or is this the biggest joke ever? Meanwhile, because these are my drama kids, the girlfriend and the boyfriend, the girl, the daughter, and the boyfriend are there, and so we start throwing things at them just to see how long they can stay in character. Well, how did you guys first meet? They both answer at the same time. One of them says, well, in the music building. The other says, at the football field, and then they had to make their stories work because they started themselves off in completely different directions. It was a fantastic experience. It was a lot of fun. A lot of people were scratching their heads going, was that real, or were those a bunch of weird people? What was going on? But we sat, we had a great conversation about their economy and their military might during dinner at Olive Garden, which is of course where any visiting dignitary goes when you're visiting America. You go to Olive Garden, of course. It was hilarious. It was a lot of fun for us, and I think amusing for the people watching. But it was a hoax that we pulled off. There's been a lot of great hoaxes. Did you know that the state of Idaho is named Idaho because of a hoax? Did you know this? Yeah, they bought the territory, and lobbyist George M. Willing suggested the name Idaho, claiming that it was a Native American term meaning gem of the mountains. However, it was later determined that he had completely made up this word, and the land buy was called the Colorado Territory, and eventually, as they made the state, the controversy was forgotten, and the state was named Idaho anyway, which is a completely made-up word by this dude, George M. Willing. So, You thought you lived in a beautiful state for beautiful reasons. You do, but it is the result of a hoax. One of my favorite hoaxes are done by a group called Improv Everywhere. Sarah hooked me up to this website, and I also saw this one particular hoax featured on pt1 a couple years ago in their top like 20 hoaxes of all time, top 40 hoaxes of all time. What Improv Everywhere is, they create scenes in the middle of the public. They just do random things in the middle of the public that make people go, huh? What was that? U2 was coming in concert in New York. And U2 has been famous for doing concerts on rooftops before, so they decided that it was time for another U2 concert on a roof. So they got members of this group together. An Asian guy played the Edge, which he's not really Asian whatsoever. And they got up on this roof. They got a guy who was basically tone deaf, who played Bono, but they got him a wig and glasses, so of course he looked like Bono. And they got a bunch of their people, and they staged this, and these people came flooding down the streets where people were lined up to see the concert, telling everyone that U2 was about ready to do this concert on a rooftop, which was an apartment building that the guy lived in, who was coordinating this.